I want us to take a quick snapshot. We've looked at this many times of all the world's value right now, more or less. We're at 1,000 trillions in total value. This total value is sitting in various buckets. 370 trillion is sitting in the real estate bucket. 318 trillion is sitting in the bond bucket. Then you've got pure money, currency. 129 trillion is in money market funds and savings accounts and CDs and things of that nature. Then you've got gold, 22 trillion. You've got equities, 135 trillion. Arts, cars, collectibles, 27 trillion. Michael Saylor claims that, and I think rightfully so, that half of this 1,000 trillions, half of that value simply just wants to be safe. It's looking for a storage bin that holds its value. All this is a storage bin. Bonds, it's a storage bin. It's not designed to be really productive doing something. Half of this money or this value just wants to be protected, just wants to be held, just wants to be stored without the value leaking too much. And so Bitcoin is only 0.2% of the global wealth. That's how early we are. If half of this 500 trillion is just looking for a store, we know Bitcoin, the new baby on the block, but has become the best storage bin of all. And it is my thesis that a portion of those who stored in real estate will begin to instead store in Bitcoin. A percentage of those who look to bonds for storage will increasingly go to Bitcoin. Money is melting like an ice cube, will increasingly go to Bitcoin. My equity holdings have been sold off after holding for decades. Where is it going? To Bitcoin. The S&P can't compete. The NASDAQ can't compete. Some individual stocks get lucky, but overall, I don't want luck. I want consistency, and I want the best. So more and more of capital that was allocated to stocks throughout my entire career is now going into Bitcoin. As I continue to sell off my Microsoft from 1994, it goes into Bitcoin. As I'm paring down my last amount of Apple from the mid-1990s, it's going to Bitcoin. I sold mostly out of NVIDIA. Where did it go? After holding it for 15 years, Bitcoin. I'm not the only one. So my thesis is that a portion from all of these categories starts going to Bitcoin, and increasingly so every single year, a bigger percentage, a bigger percentage, a bigger percentage. What Michael Saylor assumes, and I want to talk about his assumptions, not just mine. His assumption is that instead of half, I believe Bitcoin has half of the world's value is Bitcoin's addressable market, but he opts for a more conservative 280 trillion of this 1,000 trillion. This number basically backs into a $13 million Bitcoin price by the year 2045. That's how he's come up with this price projection by 2025. And what he's assuming is a declining CAGR, which I don't agree with. But let's roll with this. So I want you to understand where this is coming from. We've got 1,000 trillion in total value. Bitcoin's addressable part of it because most of it just wants a resting place that does not leak value. There's no better place than that than Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's addressable market, according to Saylor, is 280 trillion of this, which will ultimately happen over the next decade or so, bringing Bitcoin's price to 13 million per coin, assuming a 29% CAGR. Let me see, a 29% CAGR. So he's assuming that Bitcoin's CAGR will decline. Oh, Bitcoin's future CAGR on average will decline to 29. Now, what's a CAGR? Cumulative annual growth rate. So right now, we're about 120. His view is that over time, we decline. My view is that over time, we actually go the other way. Let me quickly explain once again why I believe this assumption that Bitcoin's gains are going to actually get smaller and smaller and smaller. I know that's been the scenario so far, but I believe it's just a temporary phenomenon. Let me just quickly try to explain my reasoning behind this. And I'm going to explain it by asking you a basic question. If two people have to cross a desert together, and each one has a single jug of water. Now, they're walking across the desert in tandem as a team. Each one has a jug of water. So what these two decide to do is to drink from one jug slowly as they try to make it across the desert. And as they deplete one, they will then start drinking from the other. So about a quarter of the way through the desert, one jug of water is completely gone. They start to sip into the second jug. And about halfway through the desert, 3/4 of the last jug of water is gone. They go a little further. Now, 90%, 95% of the jug of water, their final jug of water, 95% of the water is gone. Is the remaining water more valuable than the water that they started with? Is this last 5% more precious than all the water that they drank? It is, right? Every drop becomes more valuable, not less valuable. As your supply shrinks, as a limited supply item shrinks, the remaining becomes more valuable, not less valuable. Saylor's claim is that over time, even though Bitcoin becomes scarce, even though the water becomes less and less and less, the value is going to go down. It's going to be less important. Are you kidding me? No. As the amount of new Bitcoin becomes available becomes less and less, people will offer more and more for it. The CAGR is going to, mark my words, explode this way, not this way as Saylor assumes. But there's a value in considering Saylor's decline scenario because it is very, very conservative. If the conservative picture is wow, then OMG. I believe that. Nando says Saylor's thinking upside down. I believe that. That view is still stuck in the old fiat mindset. That does apply in a fiat world, but where everything can just be proliferated in terms of its supply. But when something can't be proliferated with supply, for something whose supply actually collapses over time, the item goes the other way in terms of value. It doesn't decline in value as it becomes more scarce. It goes up in value as it becomes more scarce. So 120 CAGRs will become 200 CAGRs, 300 CAGRs, and 400 CAGRs as this thing becomes less and less available. But if we take the conservative CAGR of 29, it still trounces everything else. Look at everything else. Look at money's CAGR. Look at bonds relative to the total CAGR. -3, -2. Real estate, +1 CAGR. Equities, +2 CAGR. The relative to total Bitcoin CAGR is 114. This is sad. Do you understand? Gold's decent, but not even close. I'm showing you this for a reason. Remember that most of the world's value is in here. That's where most of it's sitting. Bonds, real estate, equities, and money. But look at the CAGRs, guys. Look. I want you to really look at this. Look at what most of the money is getting. Now think of most of the money starting to realize they could get this. What do you think increasingly is going to happen? That equities, a portion is going here. A portion of real estate is going there, and increasingly so every single year until almost, I say, half of it is in Bitcoin. That's this picture that I was showing you here. Look at Bitcoin, but look at bonds. Look at Bitcoin and look at real estate. Look at Bitcoin and look at money, and then look at equities. Real estate is 1% CAGR. Bonds is negative 3% CAGR. I think it was something like that. Or negative 1%, negative 3%. You get the point. Equities plus 3%. My point is that this is pitiful compared to just flipping to Bitcoin is your savior. And this is what corporations, this is the error that corporations are just starting to recognize this and say, no, no more bonds, a lot less of this, a lot less of this. And some people are saying a lot less of this, we're going here. But they're borrowing to do it.